the Florida Writer Podcast, a discussion about writing and other things. Hello and welcome to another edition of the Florida Writer Podcast. I'm your host, Allison Nissen, and today I am lucky enough to have with me Barbara Meyers. Barbara, could you give me a 60-second elevator pitch about who you are and what you write?
I'm a barista by day, romance writer by night. I write contemporary romance and women's fiction.
What has your latest project been?
My latest project is the second book in a series. It's called the Redbud Iowa series, and the book is If You Dare. It just came out on September 1st. It's gotten some really good reviews. It's kind of an interesting story because my editor, who edited the first book, which is If You Knew, told me I should take I don't know if you want to call him the villain, but he's a very unpleasant character who torments my heroine in that book, and that I should give him his own story. And my initial knee-jerk reaction was, but he's kind of a jerk and I don't like him. And he said, all the more reason to give him a redemption story. And of course, you know, your editor's like your mother and they're usually right. And then once he said that, that was all I could think about. And, you know, that's how I ended up writing If You Dare.
So you didn't like him at the end of the first novel. Now in the second novel, he gets a redemption story. So do you like him at the end of the novel?
I do, because basically when that novel opens, he has lost pretty much everything. And he has spent the intervening time between the end of that first novel and the beginning of his story reflecting on where his life went off track. And so it sort of opens where he's starting to become more self-aware of the mistakes that he's made and the bad choices and decisions that he's made and why he is where he is. And then you just kind of see that growth continue to progress throughout the story.
And you've received good reviews for this one. What is it like when you receive something that's like, wow, a wow review?
For me, you know, I really pursued trying to get professional reviews from romance review sites and also from readers of romance. And what it does for me is you feel like you've written a really good book, but people who know you are usually not going to tell you the truth about it, unless they're other writers, then they might. But people who don't know you and professional reviewers have no reason to say nice things about your book because they don't know you, they don't care. And I think the other validating point is, you know, that these people read a lot of romance novels and a lot of women's fiction. So they're way more discerning than your best friend who is trying to be nice to you and probably reads cozy mysteries as opposed to romance, but she's doing you a favor. So she's going to say nice things to you. These people have no reason to. So when they're saying nice things, you tend to believe it a little bit more. At least I do.
So what is a professional reviewer?
What is a professional reviewer? Oh my goodness.
That's what you called them, right? You called them professional reviewers?
Because yeah, there's sites that's pretty much all they do. They have reviewers, and that's all they do is read and review books for those sites. Some people have their own. There's one called Romance for the Beach. The woman who does that is actually an attorney, but she does the best. She's very analytical about what works and what doesn't. And she doesn't actually rate the stories like, you know, with stars, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars. She just has a very good way of saying, this is what worked, this is what didn't, this is what the author could have done. It's really good feedback. And other sites just have people there. That's what they do. They read and review romance novels. And some of them you can buy advertising space. That's how a lot of them make their money.
How do you find these reviewers? Dedicated reviewers, because I'm sure they have, like the lawyers, she probably does other things too. So.
I found her because when I was with a publisher, she reviewed 1 or 2 of my books, and that's how I found her. Another one I found through, there's a place, an entity called Voracious Readers. I don't know, I can't remember how I came across it. I mean, you could just Google romance review sites and you'd probably get a whole list of them. Some of them I've discovered on Twitter, and then I'll go and I'll see what they're, I'll look at their profile, and then I'll go to their site, and then I'll see if they seem like they'd be a good fit for what I write, and whether or not I want to request a review from them. Some of them will not review self-published books. Some of them you have to request it and send them the book, and then it's really up to them. Not everybody will say yes. It's kind of like trying to find an agent. A lot of them just ignore you. So I've just kind of, over time, I've built a list. In fact, the first review I got was from Coffee Time Romance, which I didn't even know they were going to review the book. I never heard back from them, but then they sent me the advance like a month before the book came out. They were like, here's our review. So you just kind of have to build a list over time of people that are interested in reviewing what you write.
And how do you compile the reviews once you start receiving them?
I copy them all and put them in a Word document, and then I'll lift, bits and pieces out of them so that I can use those in social media posts, or use them on my website, or use them in the next book that comes out. And you can also use them as editorial reviews on Amazon. You can add them to your, the page for your book there.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That is interesting, because Amazon seems to be where most people go to at least look at a book.
Exactly. And, I've seen people post that if a book doesn't have at least 10 reviews, they won't even look at it, even if it, they thought they were interested. So I don't know how many people that applies to, but I think it helps to have, if you can say, oh, these 4 review sites reviewed this book, and you have, a snippet of each one where they've said good things. And some of the reviewers will actually post the entire review on your page on Amazon or on Goodreads, sometimes both.
Well, that sounds like a fantastic idea for authors.
Well, it doesn't really generally cost you anything except time and effort. Just figuring out, is this a good fit for me? And then filling out whatever submission form they have, or just emailing them and requesting a review.
You've had a lot of books that were previously published by a publisher that went under, and now you said you are editing them for re-release. What has that experience been like?
It's a lot of work. I mean, a couple of them I have already put out on my own, and it's a matter of coming up with a new cover, a new blurb, reformatting the book, and maybe it might even need to be edited for updated for, maybe it was published 8 or 10 years ago. Sometimes things change, and maybe it's no longer politically correct, or technology has changed, or, something like that. I did approach a publisher called the Wild Rose Press about re-releasing one of those books, and they did take that project on. And it's quite a lengthy process to have it done, because they're going through the same thing I would have had to go through, re-editing it for their, their guidelines, coming up with a new cover, working on the blurb with me. So it's a process. The great thing is the books are already done. So for the most part, they're already done. So it's less work than creating it from ground zero, but it's still work.
If you had to just totally shift your thinking and write something that's completely off the wall, what might that be?
Ooh, off the wall. I'd probably go back to my what I call screwball fantasy series that I wrote under the pen name AJ Tillock. I have 2 books out in that series, and I started a 3rd one. I'm really thinking maybe that's what I need to do to just get me back in the game, is just do something that isn't romance. It would just
fantasy. I love the title.
it's a crazy idea from, I've worked as a barista for a global coffee company for many years, just part-time for the most part. And I thought I should be able to make some money off this gig. And I came up with this idea about a coffee store manager, and she finds these coffee beans and they turn out to have magic qualities where she finds herself temporarily in other entities, like in the first book she temporarily embodies a fly or a cockroach or something like that, and then she goes back into her own head, her own body. She kind of reunites, and she has no memory of what the human part of her did at the time. And it's kind of comical, and she's on this quest to take down these Albanian mafia people. It's kind of a nutty, off the wall thing. So I might just go back and write that.
Well, that sounds like something fun. I know I've actually read the Screwball Fantasies, and I did enjoy them very much.
Oh, thank you.
So I recommend everybody go see what happens if you have a magic coffee bean.
That's the thing, people that read them really enjoy them because they're so unusual and they're so different. But that's the same reason I have trouble marketing them, is because they're sort of genre defined. They're not romances. I don't really think there is such a genre called screwball fantasy, although there might be humorous fantasy. I was just looking at all those categories the other day. So maybe I'll get better at marketing them and I'll make some money, and then I can write another one.
All right. Well, Barb, this has been a fun interview.
Thank you.
I would like to switch gears, but first I want to ask how people can get in touch with you.
Probably the best way is through my website, barbarameyers.com. There's a contact form on there. Email me. Also, all my social media, you can always find me. I'm easy to find. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
Are they all at Barbara Meyers?
At Barb Meyers, I think. I have a Barbara Meyers author page on Facebook, but Instagram and Twitter are at Barb Meyers. Yeah. Meyers.
Eyers, yes,
Yeah.
Meyers. All right, let's go to our rapid fire questions. Would you sit down tonight and read Shakespeare?
Say that again.
Would you sit down tonight and read Shakespeare?
Would I? Do you want me to? On the average evening, I would not be reading Shakespeare. No. I do have his complete works, however. I inherited it. I have the book, but I would not probably read Shakespeare.
You're probably with 99.9% of the population. Second question. If you were going to take your dream vacation, where would you go?
I want to go to the British Isles. I want to go to London. I want to travel through Ireland and Scotland and Wales. maybe hang, rent a place like in Ireland, or it's so beautiful. It looks so beautiful there. That's my dream vacation. I've wanted to go there for a long time.
And my final question on the fly. I'm looking around my office for inspiration. My final question, if you had to repaint your house, what color would you choose?
Inside or outside?
Ooh, good choice. Let's say inside.
Blue.
Blue, nice calming color.
That's my favorite color. I just made my husband repaint both of our bathrooms because we renovated them, and he painted them blue, and it looks really good.
Sounds perfect. Well, Barbara Meyers, thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
This has been another edition of the Florida Writer Podcast. This has been Allison Nissen, your host. Catch you next time. Allison out. Barista by day, romance novelist by night. When not writing fiction, Dr. Seuss-like poetry for adults, or song lyrics, Barbara Meyers disguises herself behind a green apron and works part-time for a worldwide coffee company. Her novels are a mix of comedy, suspense, and spice, and often feature a displaced child. Barbara is still married to her first husband and has 2 fantastic children and 1 adorable grandchild. Originally from Southwest Missouri, she blames her roots in the show me state for her somewhat skeptical nature. She currently resides in Central Florida. For more information about Barbara Meyers, visit her at her website, barbarameyers.com. BARBARAMEYERS.com. For more information about the Florida Writers Association, visit us on the web at floridawriters.net.